The Naps by Sylcian SPF Legacy. Read by Rat Overlord. Summary. Aizawa wakes up one day and decides it's Mental Health Awareness Day. He has a class that needs him and he won't fail them. Oh, and where the hell did he put those adoption papers? A little reader side note. I will be saying flashback to indicate when a flashback is happening, and end of flashback to indicate when it has ended, due to them being a present staple in the story. Enjoy! There was something that all hero agencies dreaded. Something that was never mentioned unless it was needed, and then everyone would just forget it happened, turning their head away, a smile fixed on their face. The talk was a taboo hidden in the hero's heart, shrouded by shame and anger. No one knew who had named it, but they still were grateful that people out of the loop thought it was just a sex talk given to new pro-heroes. Something that sounded like a reminder to be aware of their new position in society and to be thoughtful of how the journalists and the public would pounce on any scandal. Funnily enough, it was actually very close to the truth. Sadly, it was only a cover, and Aizawa would have preferred to give a sex talk to his class instead of the talk. The one that shouldn't be needed until they had some years as pro-heroes behind them and not a half year of high school. Technically, this was not required of him. He could just ignore every red flag he had seen and let his students go through their life without ever having this discussion with them. But he remembered being in their position, needing help and receiving none. And this was his hell class. He had already failed them so many times. No, on this point he would not relent. People could stare at him, judge him, and find him lacking all they wanted, but he would not accept failing his kids. He refused to let them go through more tragedies without all the help, all the support they needed, instead of hiding his shame away like all the other pro-heroes had a tendency to do. That would not make it easier. That would not take away his own shame, his fears, and his pain. This would not relieve him of the weight on his shoulders, would not let him sleep more easily. But that was not the point. And this was what his colleagues didn't understand. This whole mess had never been about themselves. It was about the people they had a duty to help. You would think that as heroes, they would understand that, right? But it was very different to save someone from a building on fire, from being mugged, or even talking them away from the ledge of a building, than to dedicate yourself to helping someone by sharing your weaknesses with them. By being honest. And being a hero was the farthest thing you could come from being honest. So today, he would not come in front of his class as a racerhead. Instead, he would come in front of his children as Shota. He just hoped that for once, he would be enough, that he could make a difference. After taking a deep breath, he pushed open the door of the class and, using all the courage he could find in himself, entered the room. The shocked silence suddenly ringing around him almost made him falter. At least, he mused internally, this time it took them less than a second to settle down. He closed the door and walked to his desk and, with a sigh, sat down. Aizawa-sensei? This was going to be harder than he had expected. They all looked so young. and yet he could see the bags under their eyes, the tiredness in their moves, the paranoid looks that they had on their faces, the fury, the will to survive in their gaze, the desire to protect everything they cared about with all they had in every breath that they took. Oh, this was going to be hell. But that was rather fitting, wasn't it? Going through hell for his hell class. After all, he was a member of Class 1A, too. Sensei? He smiled softly, and the sharp intake of breath they all took would have been hilarious in any other setting. But here, wearing only a white t-shirt, black sweatpants, and an old pair of sneakers, his capture weapon tucked away in the sleeping bag he left near his desk, Aizawa could only feel vulnerable.
Today, we will do something a bit different from usual. I canceled your classes for the rest of the morning because today I will need you to listen. I will need you to not only be attentive, but also to work on your compassion, your solidarity, your understanding, your humanity, and your kindness. I will not accept any form of antipathy or cruelty. No disgust, no revulsion, no discrimination. I understand that this is going to be very emotional, and I want you to know that your feelings are not only valid and acceptable, but that everyone here will respect them, will respect you. I also understand that you will be confused, lost, scared. We will get out of everyone's comfort zone today, and it will not be easy.
He closed his eyes, took a calming breath, opened them again, and smiled sadly.
It will not be easy for you or for me. But I know you, and more importantly, I know that you trust each other, that you trust me, and that I trust you in return. Honestly, that's all I need to know to have this conversation with you.
The tension in the room could only have been cut with one of the sharpest blades ever created with how thick it was. And yet, Ida didn't hesitate more than a handful of seconds before answering softly,
We will listen, Sensei.
And he was clearly talking as the class representative, saying the words all of them had on their tongue. He swallowed with difficulty, wondering once more what he did to deserve them. But now was not the time to think of this.
Then, let's begin. Hello, class. My name is Shota, and I'm here before you not as a pro-hero, but as someone who has been with you through all the events of the past 6 months. Someone who has shared the same living space since we all moved into the dorms. As someone with experience with difficult fights, life and death situations, loss of a friend, guilt, shame, despair, and trauma.
If the silence had been thick before, it was nothing compared to now. It was almost impressive. It was also making him more nervous, and, since he couldn't hide himself in his capture weapon, he was sure his children could see it.
Normally, you would only hear this after some years spent as a pro-hero from a superior of your agency, or an older hero mentoring you. But the League stole from you the chance to grow up as safe as possible. In all honesty, I could have let you go on without ever saying a word of this. But you deserve better, and I refuse to not give you what you need because I'm too ashamed to admit that I am, just like you, only human.
If he had needed to be convinced that he was making the right choice, the hope and fear in the eyes of his class would have definitely been enough. As it was, it only gave him another reason to smile at them and talk to them with his heart wide open. Sometimes Aizawa stared at himself in the mirror and could only ask his reflection if he was a good person. But there were other times when he could only stare blankly at the nearest object and wonder if throwing away any notion of decency and goodness he had to strangle someone would not be his best option. The only thing staying his hand was that it would give his class more problems, and that was definitely not acceptable.
Let's see if I understand you correctly, Vlad. My class, that I exempted from all of their classes yesterday morning, including yours, because I needed to talk to them about their futures, gave you this afternoon the exercises they should have given you in class that I exempted them from. Yes, I can understand not receiving them in the morning since they were with you, but they should have left them with me yesterday afternoon, not today, and all they could give me were some pitiful excuses.
Don't strangle your colleague for a reason this stupid, Shotha. Don't strangle him. It will not help. Deep breath. You can do it. His inner mantra didn't help as much as he wanted, but at least maybe he would be able to go through this conversation without screaming. Vlad couldn't have known that the talk he had with his class had wrecked them and that they needed some time to recuperate. It had been an honest mistake on both sides, since it seemed his class hadn't explained what happened, probably out of shame. He couldn't blame them for this.
They didn't even think they did something wrong. When I request work, I expect to have it the day I say I wanted it, not at the next class. And what sort of excuses? We are deeply sorry for the delay, sir. None of us were feeling well yesterday, and we didn't think the worksheet you gave us was all that urgent. What did they think? That the world would just wait for them to feel better or to throw work at them?
Aizawa could only stare at his colleague with disbelief. He couldn't have heard that properly. Not only did his children, probably Ida in their stead, honestly explain that they were not in a good place and that the work asked of them did not take precedence on their welfare, but they had apologized properly. And did Vlad really ask if his class knew the sort of horrors the world would throw at them unexpectedly? Did he forget why they had implemented the dorms in the first place?
And then they had the audacity to ignore me when I scolded them. There's even one of them who just put their head on their desk and fell asleep.
Oh, this changed everything. He contained with all his might the smile wanting to appear on his face and, with the more deadpan voice he had, asked the only question who truly mattered.
And which one of them did this?
That they ignored the scolding was a step in the right direction, since they followed the advice he gave them. But one of his students had gone beyond that, and he needed to know.
The one in the front with the frog quirk, Suyu, I think.
This time, Shota let his smile appear on his face and left his colleague without a word. He was honestly surprised that Asui had followed his advice so soon, but she was courageous and honest enough with herself to actually go through with it, so maybe he shouldn't have been. In any case, he had never been more proud of his problem children, and if tonight they would find all the ingredients that they needed to make their favorite foods, then he would have absolutely no idea of how that could have happened. And if he ended up cuddling with half of them in front of a documentary in the middle of the night because they couldn't sleep, then it was nobody's business but their own. Flashback.
You need to remember that you won't be able to save anyone if you don't save yourself first. Protect yourself. You are important. You matter. Let others talk about you all they want. Only you can decide who you are and what matters for you. As heroes, it is your duty to help others, yes, but it is also your prerogative to stand up for yourself. Explain yourself. Apologize if needed. Admit your errors and assume the consequences of your actions, but never, ever let someone else tell you that your work should take priority over your health.
End of flashback.
Was in a closet. I don't understand what's going on with this class anymore. It's the 7th time one of the students ended up asleep in a weird place.
Aizawa calmed his breath as much as he could, making it faint enough that his colleagues would not realize he was behind the couch tucked away in his sleeping bag. Or, at least, that they thought he was still asleep. This conversation sounded very interesting after all, and it would be quite a shame if it stopped all because of him. It seemed to work for now, since Nemuri continued in her rant.
Maybe it's the dorms? They don't feel comfortable and can't sleep enough, and now the lack of sleep is catching up to them? I don't understand, Sashi. They seemed fine a week ago, but now they all look like hell swallowed them up and spit them out at our feet.
There was some shuffling before he heard Hisashi answer her with a pensive tone.
I may be wrong, but a week ago, Shota talked to them during a whole morning, and his class disappeared into the dorms during the afternoon because, and I quote, "We are not feeling well, and we're not in a good enough state to attend class." The whole falling asleep everywhere seems to have begun just after that.
There were some movements, the sound of an opening bag, something falling on the ground, and a soft curse.
Sadly, it makes sense, but Hisashi, what in the hell could he have told his class that would have shaken them up so much? He may be a bit too direct sometimes and lacks some tact, but he's not cruel. He loves his kids, and if he hurt them by accident, he would feel so bad that he would be moping all over the place. Yes, he looks even more tired than usual, but he also looks happier in a way. This is just not making any sense.
Maybe they're trying to imitate him?
His friend's voice was full of mirth, and he tried very hard not to laugh out loud. Hisashi had always been more observant than anyone ever gave him credit for. Oh, if he knew how close to the truth he was! Not that he would tell him that. It would ruin all of the fun. Flashback.
Not sleeping properly is not a problem if you can manage your sleep pattern. Let me be clear. If you can get a full night of sleep and feel better in the morning because of it, I do not want you to throw it away because you think you can handle a bit less sleep than usual. But it's also normal and fine if you can't. That's not the end of the world. But you will need some sleep. So, if a full night's rest is not something you can have, or something that will make you feel better, then cut your hours of sleep into cycles. 4 one time, 2 sometimes later, 3 at another moment. A nap of 30 minutes here, another one later. Experiment and find what gives you the most rest. Personally, I know that I am at my best when I have 4 hours of sleep at night, and then another 2 hours in the morning. 2 30-minute naps in the afternoon, and 2 hours of sleep after dinner. That's what works for me. Every single one of you is different, and have different needs, and that's alright. You just need to find what works best for you. It can change and evolve with time, but as long as it's what you need, then let no one tell you that it's wrong. I know some of you will work in front of the media and will not have the opportunity to hide in the shadows like I did, but make no mistake. The media and the public will judge you no matter what you do. So, and I know this will not be easy, don't listen to them. What they say doesn't define you. If having weird habits is what you need to be able to feel well and they judge you for it, then so be it. Even better, you can make it yours. A part of your image as a hero. Your own brand of heroism, if you will. Be proud of who you are. And if it means anything to you, know that I'm already proud of you.
End of flashback. The past few weeks had been hectic, to say the least, not that they had any regret. On the contrary, Shota could admit easily that he would defend every single choice he had made during the past month, head high and a proud smile on his face. His Hellions had surpassed every single expectation he had, and for every challenge he gave them, they threw one at him in return. He hadn't learned so fast and had so much fun in ages. It had not been easy, though. Far from it. The biggest challenge that they had to overcome had been to ask for help and accept it in return. It would still take them years to really learn that lesson, but that was all right. They needed time, and he was here to give it to them. Today, that meant lying through his teeth with a straight face to the number one hero. Todoroki, his problem child, not the huge trash can on fire that stood in front of him, hadn't exactly come to him to explain that he didn't want to go home, but he did say it to Ida while he had been tucked in the couch of the common room, and they all knew he was never sleeping before dinner. Progress was progress, and he would take what they felt ready to give him. And if he was overdoing it by making sure Enji could not even contact his son unless it was an emergency, then it's not like anyone needed to know. A movement in the corner of his eyes made him sigh internally. Correction. No one needed to know, with the exception of his problem children spying and ready to gossip with the rest of the class about their homeroom teacher lying with no shame whatsoever to the number one hero.
Shoto needs to be home this weekend, and that's final, Aizawa. I don't care about this project thing, he can always do it later, but he will spend his weekend with his family.
Shota could admit that he probably should choose the safest option. Tons of paperwork and Netsu looming ominously while you have to fill all of it out made stronger men than Enji break. But Shoto was his. He was the one he trusted to protect him, the one he needed right now, and the sharp intake of breath near him told him everything he needed to know about what his other children thought of the situation. The safest option would do the job, but it was not enough.
You're right. Shoto will be home and with his family this weekend. Ha! I always knew you'd understand. At the dorms, in UA.
If looks could kill, he would already be 6 feet under or just ashes scattered in the wind.
What did you say?
Oh dear, time to dig his own grave even further, it seems.
I know that Shoto's sister and brother won't be at your house this weekend. They sent him a message. So, since his siblings will not be there, he will spend his weekend with the family he created among his friends, here at UA, in the home he built with them, not at your house with the man who fathered him and still can't appreciate him for who he is. If you want to see him again, you can go and call Netsu. I'm sure he will explain to you with great pleasure why he agreed with me about you not being allowed to be with Shoto alone. If you want the short version, it was about what you call quote-unquote training, and Recovery Girl being unhappy about all the new burns she had to heal after the last weekend he spent with you.
Maybe using his most sarcastic voice was a bit too much, but at this point he really was out of fucks to give. Enji was not the one who had to spend 20 minutes getting his kid out of a panic attack because Sero had tripped and splashed some drops of boiling water on his arm.
So now do all of us a favor and leave my kids alone.
Leaving a spluttering ball of rage and fire behind him, Shota tried his best to keep a blank face, but seeing Ashido's feet behind a bush, hearing what sounded like Hagakure stifling laughter up in a tree, and perceiving some poorly hidden animals who clearly had some sort of camera around their necks, was making it very hard. Flashback.
You will feel alone, abandoned, scared, drowning in pain and despair. All the things we had to go through were unfair, and none of us deserved it. Be it before UA or since the beginning of the year, none of us deserved all the shit that happened to us. It doesn't mean that your feelings about it aren't valid. It only means that the problems you had, have, and will have is only a part of your story, and they're not what make you who you are. What you feel about it, though, it's a part of you that deserves to be listened to, just as much as the nicest emotions and feelings you have. All of you deserve to be heard, to be accepted, to be loved. No matter what you have lived through, no matter what you will have to go through. At this point, our class, we're not the same. Not after we lived through hell together. Not after we had to live with the consequences of what happened together. If the dorms hadn't been created, we could have continued like before, and I would never have mentioned all of this. And even if I did, I would never have made it so personal. But the dorms were made, and living together gave us something we never thought we would find. Unconditional support. It will take time to fully trust each other, to fully let us be ourselves in front of the others, to know and believe that we will have each other's backs no matter what. And that's all right. It'll take time, and that's perfectly fine. We have time. I want you to remember that, to trust me on that. You will have time to heal and grow up knowing you have a safe space to do so, because I will be there to make damn sure it happens.
End of flashback. Shota could probably admit, under duress, and if he had no other options left, that using Midoriya's analysis to bribe the principal was probably not his finest moment, even if the idea had come from his problem child himself. Yet he could not regret it. Maybe he had some shivers every time someone talked about the tea time his kid was having with the principal, but even that meant nothing every time he saw the kid come back with a big smile on his face. That and the renovation the dorms had gone through really had helped. So what if his problem child was getting more terrifying every day? Good on him. He would create a revolution with just a smile, and Shota would be right behind him without any hesitation. But truly, the new dorms 1A had were really worth bribing the principal. The new furniture, appliances, and food store were top-notch. His apartment and his new office being a part of 1A dorms instead of with the other teachers was a nice touch too. And so what if his office had been transformed into a library for his students? More reading would not hurt them. The fish tank in it the students had to take care of, it was nice of him to give them responsibilities. Of course, it wasn't his fault that his cats were very intelligent and could sneak out of his apartment into the rest of the dorms. Maybe he had adopted 3 more than he had before the summer, and they were always in the common room, but it's not like anyone knew that. The cat's things spread over the common room. It was just to make sure the poor animals didn't suffer if they were locked out of his rooms. Obviously. So maybe having a different curfew than the rest of the school was not ideal, but since his kids were only getting better after he changed the rule, he didn't see what the problem was. Maybe working with them on the budget they were given to teach them how to manage it efficiently was not necessary. Perhaps buying cooking books and leaving them near the kitchen so anyone could try them at any hour of the day if they needed to wind down, buying video games and movies for the TV they had for the evenings that they shared, and bartering for some plants to embellish their common space was not exactly a necessity. But Shota was pragmatic and, more importantly, he knew his kids. It was not necessary for him to do all of this, and yet it changed them and helped them feel more at home, feel safe enough to be themselves and to be children. Yes, they still had to live through villain attacks, hero work studies, beating some abusive yakuzas, adopting a little girl, writing and performing a song for the festival, but they did it all together. More than that, there were other people joining them. First it had been Hisashi, who had appeared from nowhere one day and just never left, always ready to share a quiet moment with the people who needed it when he took off his hearing aids or to teach JSL to someone if they asked. Singing freely while cleaning or tumbling on the carpet with the cats or cuddling the kids who needed it. Just being there, offering advice or a shoulder to cry on when Shota could not. His class was not being very sneaky by trying to get the two of them together, though. Should he tell them that he had already asked Hisashi to marry him just after the USJ? Oh well, they probably would figure it out by themselves anyways. Then there was Shinso, of course. Poor kid had dared say in front of Isuku of all people that he was not here to have friends. Joke's on him, as he was all but officially a part of 1A and stuck with them for the rest of his days. Not that he seemed to regret it, since Shota had never seen him look so happy since they first met. All Might, or more exactly Yagi Toshinori, had become the weird uncle that came and went, leaving gifts and a smile behind him, always ready to help and with no sense of shame, ready for everything but awkward when people included him in their little bubble of love. Eri, or more accurately, his daughter, the little sister of 1A, her soft smile making the room she was in shine brighter than ever before. Mirio, the big brother his class had never known they needed, but had accepted without any reservation, just as they accepted Neshire and Tamaki, who were both common guests nowadays. And all of this just because he took a bet one day and won the jackpot because of it. Flashback.
Do you know why I'm here before you? Not as a pro hero, but as your equal. Because I want you to understand a lesson that no one will ever give you out of shame. Admitting that you need help and accepting it when someone gives it to you is not something you should be ashamed of. And yet, if you had to ask any pro heroes what their point of view on this is, they would tell you that maybe you need it since you're still young and weak. But them? No, of course not. The trauma they lived through didn't affect them for long. They're healed and are absolutely fine. Most of them are lying through their teeth and are just hiding everything behind strong walls. But there will always come one day when that wall will break, and those heroes will break with it. And this is the last thing I want for you. I want you to be happy, to be free, to be able to live your lives as you want. I want you to have strong foundations that will last all of your life and make you healthy and level-headed adults. Today, I'm here before you as Shota, as a man who still has to live through insomnia and depression on a regular basis, among other things. But I'm also here as an adult who can admit that I'm not perfect and that I need help. And I have friends and people who care about me and help me through it. Today, I want you to know that I'm giving you the same opportunity to have someone who will be here for you and not judge you no matter what. You need to scream, tell me, and I'll give you a space for it. You need to eat at any point in the day, I will make sure you have food. You need space, you'll have it. You need help with your schoolwork, I'll help you with it. You need someone to just be there, I'll stand by your side. You need protection, I'll make damn sure you're safe. You need sleep, take all the naps you want. I'm serious, all the naps. If that means that you take care of yourselves, that you will stop looking dead on your feet or so stressed out you almost pass out when I ask you a question, then yes, take all the naps you want. And all of this, I needed it or still need it. Now, I only have one question for you. Do you think I'm a lesser man for it?
No!
Then neither are you. For now, I want you to think about everything I said to you, and to know that I'm here for you if you ever need it. Thank you for listening to me. Class dismissed.
Howdy, fellow rats. Hope you enjoyed. And if you did, feel free to leave a like or comment down below, because I always love hearing from you guys. And make sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date with whenever I post. I really enjoyed the message of this fic when I first found it, and I shit you not, I almost immediately, I went right down to the comments, was like, let me podfic this, please. And, I still enjoy the message of it, and I hope you enjoyed it too. I felt like it was a good message to pass forward, so to speak. We all gotta remember to take care of ourselves, And sometimes we just need a good little reminder with some added Aizawa as a bonus. And speaking of reminders, here's your reminder to go slurp down some of that water, because I know you're dehydrated. I can tell. Hydrate, not dihydrate, kids. Oh, and I also have some bloopers that may or may not include me losing my mind for a minute or so, maybe longer, when the iPad that I read off of decided to die while I was recording. So, enjoy.
Even better, you can make it yours. A part of your image as a hero. Your own brand of heroism, if you will. Be proud of who you... Oh, come on. Fuck. Fuck me gently with a chainsaw.
What? Really? Are you fucking kidding me? Kill me! Fucking iPad died.
Well, I guess you guys get to listen to me talk to myself in voices while I wait for my iPad to turn on. Because now I have to... rage.
Jesus fucking Christ. You know what, at this point, just take me out back and put me out of my misery.
The temptation that I currently feel deep in the recesses of my soul to take this brick of technology and whip it into a wall like a frisbee. Yeet! Honestly, I kinda wonder, if I threw this like a frisbee, how far could I throw it?
That's actually a good question. How far could I throw it? No.
Can't throw things. Because if you yeet the iPad, then it won't turn on again. Come on, turn on, bitch. Yay! About damn time. Bum-ba-dum. We will. Honestly, there's something really fun about doing Suyu's voice. Her and Aizawa are probably my two most entertaining voices to do. That and doing... that and doing a nervous, Midoriya is pretty fun.
Load, why aren't you loading, bitch? What is this, snail mail speed? Jesus.
Alright, where were we? Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get your show on. Something really funny from the server that people headcanon is that Suyu laughs like papyrus. Alright, I found the spot. But as an example, before I start reading.
I'm less angry now. Honestly, so you laughing is really funny. Alright, anyways, back to recording.